Very grave charges leveled by senior Congress leader Rahul Gandhi. He says DBO is vulnerable. He says Depsang is gone. He says government of India is buckled. Is that actually true? Or is this politics that's actually trumping national security? We'll talk about this in greater detail, but take a look at this report.
India-China standoff politics explodes. Rahul Gandhi attacks Modi government over Chinese buildup at Depsang and alleged Chinese malware role in 2020 Mahapar outage. Days after India Today reported on Chinese buildup in Depsang region in eastern Ladakh, Congress MP Rahul Gandhi said that China mobilized its conventional and cyber forces to threaten India and that the Modi government buckled. Rahul said that India's land in Depsang is gone and Daulet Beg Oldie is vulnerable. The Congress soon came out in open support of Rahul, hitting out at the Modi government.
I would like to congratulate India Today for showing the truth which the BJP government is desperately trying to bury. The issue is that the BJP government has sadly not learned any lessons from the Doklam, Arunachal and the LAC standoff.
The BJP, on the other hand, has launched a scathing attack on Rahul.
Mr. Rahul Gandhi, please do not worry about the borders because government at the center and Indian Defence Forces, they are capable enough to check China and Pakistan both. So our borders are secured. So stop spreading rumors and do not try to preach that whether it was a cyber attack and India is not safe, how the China has entered in our borders. Everything is in right place.
High-resolution satellite images show Chinese PLA constructing additional camps, shelters in Tianwendian post. Defense experts have called it a posturing by Beijing to gain an upper hand in negotiations with India.
The reported build-up by PLA and China in the Depsang plains is partly because of negotiations for the disengagement process in other areas after Pangong are going on. And it is definite that China would like to do some posturing and apply pressure on the Indian side to seek concessions at the operational and strategic level.
But Rahul's attacks are not limited to Depsang alone. The Congress MP has alleged that the Modi government buckled under cyber attacks from China, which even Maharashtra government blames for the 2020 power outage in Mumbai.
वो बिजली गुम होने के पीछे लोड डिस्पैच सेंटर में जो स्काडा हमारा यूनिट होता है जो बैलेंस करता है लोड डिस्पैच को कि कहाँ पे डिमांड सप्लाई एंड डिमांड के ऊपर डिपेंड रहता है वो और उसको मैनेज करता है उसके अंदर 8 ट्रोजन हॉर्स ने एंट्री की है वो फायरवॉल ब्रेक करके ऐसा कह दिया है ये जो ट्रोजन्स आए उस ट्रोजन में कुछ चाइना के भी है और यूके के भी ट्रोजन्स है.
This, as the cyber experts have demanded probe into the Maha government's claims.
If your system has been infected with Trojan horses, then it's a crystal clear example of the fact that your system has been cyber attacked. At the Mumbai power outage issue, well, the outage lasted a couple of hours, and right now, while different versions are coming forward, the fact still remains is that the entire issue needs to be thoroughly investigated. It's even more necessary for India to revisit its logs to find out where was the loophole.
This is not the first time that Rahul Gandhi has attacked Prime Minister Narendra Modi on the Ladakh standoff. While discussions are going on about further disengagement, India has made its stand clear that it will not be satisfied with disengagement only at the Pangong Lake. And going forward, all friction points need to be addressed to bring about peace and a final resolution across eastern Ladakh. Abhishek Bhalla in New Delhi for India Today.
Is Rahul Gandhi alerting the nation, sensitizing the nation, or is Rahul Gandhi crying wolf? Let's now bring in our guest. Joining me on the broadcast are Sardar R.P. Singh, spokesperson of the Bharatiya Janata Party. Adil Singh Boparai is the spokesperson of the Congress Party. Jitin Jain is a cybersecurity expert. And Lieutenant General Gurmeet Singh is former Deputy Chief of the Army Staff. He's served on ground. He's been a part of India-China military to military dialogue. But RP Singh, the attack is direct. The attack is scathing. Depsang gone, DBO vulnerable. Response, sir.
Well, Rahul, before I answer on the Depsang and other theories of Mr. Rahul Gandhi on his Twitter, every day he puts some theory in the Twitter. I'll appreciate, you should have played one of the interviews which he gave to Basu Kaushik yesterday probably, where his love for China come out. And when the question was asked that if you were the PM and what will your equation with US, he says, clear Chinese vision is a modern Silk Road nervous system in it. So you can understand a man has something to do with China. I don't want to put words on that, but he has something to do with China, which he keeps babbling out and keep coming out every day on his Twitter or through some other medium of the conversation. But the sad part is that we all
Sir,
know,
the
and you
issue
also
at
know.
hand. Sir, the question Rahul Gandhi has asked you is, sir, Depsang gone, DBO vulnerable. What's the truth?
Sir, Depsang is there as it is. What was the situation as early? Nothing has changed. The place which is being referred to, the Pangong post, was on the side of the LAC of the Chinese. It's not on the Indian side. And yes, they have done some build-up there, which is their position. But it doesn't mean that they are kept at Depsang. And India is in negotiation with China on a longer term, where we have already cleared up the Pangong lake, and we are working on other areas also. But it's not the recent thing. It has been there in their give me a second. They have been there since 2013. I can send you detailed notes on how China came in that area in 2013, and since then there has been a difference of opinion on the what is the situation on ground on the LAC. And I have an old map. I can send it to you.
Adil Singh Boparai, please respond, sir.
Give me a second. I'll send you this old tourist map which I have got from General J.J. Singh's book, which clearly shows that this was a dispute since 1962. It's not a fresh dispute. And this is not a new book. This is an old book which General J. Singh published quite long back. So Rahul Gandhi, as usual, he tried to create some sort of story on China.
Adil Singh Boparai, please respond. The BJP accuses Rahul Gandhi of crying wolf. I'll stay on the Depsang issue for a moment. I'll come to the cyber attacks in just a moment. But Adil Singh Boparai on Depsang.
Gaurav, Narendra Modi has sacrificed India's territorial integrity in order to safeguard his PR cultivated image. It is as simple as this. He condoned Chinese aggression. He downplayed Chinese threat, and he allowed the Chinese to forcefully occupy Indian territory. And these are not merely charges, Gaurav. They have presented us with a fait accompli. Unless RP Singh ji is accusing India today of putting out fabricated satellite imagery, I think RP Singh Sahab is in a very difficult position. And he's a good man. He understands Mr. Narendra Modi has sacrificed and compromised India's interest. The issue is very simple. There were two choices before Mr. Narendra Modi. One was to look the Chinese in the eye and safeguard our sovereignty. And on the other was to somehow safeguard his personal image of a strong man. And Mr. Modi has gone with the latter, point number one. Point number two, Gaurav, the Chinese are acting in pursuance of a very calibrated strategy. It is not just military operations across the LAC, but they are also targeting critical Indian installations. It is not just merely one power grid. They are attacking our maritime posts. They are attacking our financial capital. They are sending India a message. And unfortunately, international analysts, CIA, foreign governments have to tell us that there is a concerted Chinese cyber attack, and Mr. Modi is in denial. Please understand, it is not about Mr. Rahul Gandhi. It is about India's territorial integrity.
Fair enough.
You can have differences.
I will come to the point of cyber attack in just a moment. I will come to the point of cyber attack in just a moment. You've raised some very important points. You've raised some very important points. I'll come to cyber. Sir, no. Let's sir, on an issue of crucial national security, on issue of crucial national security, we cannot have politics over national security. Sir, that's a grave charge you've leveled. And let me get Lieutenant General Gurmeet Singh. Let me get General Gurmeet Singh to respond to that. I'm sorry, I'll take this one by one. I'll come to the issue of cybersecurity and Trojan attacks in just a moment. I want to stay on the issue of Depsang and very specifically Depsang. The India Today report talks about Chinese build-up not in Indian territory but on the Chinese side. That's point one. Point two, General Gurmeet Singh, facts on ground. You heard the BJP, you heard the Congress. For a nation, we trust our soldiers. What are facts on ground?
Gaurav, firstly, would like to comment on what the politicians say. But one thing is definite, that the inputs which one has seen from the oration is that it's a misinformation and they're misleading. And when viewed from the facts, reality, and on-ground situation, firstly, I think to give comments like Depsang gone and threat to DBO, buckled, cowardized, this doesn't augur well when the topic is national security. This doesn't augur well as a nation that it's coming from our own political parties. They may have an agenda, they may have a political targeting, but don't request is a very humble request that don't comment on national security issues about which you are not much aware about. And when to talk about Depsang, see, one thing is very clear. Army commander had told you when you had conducted exclusive interview with him, he said it's a legacy issue. He said that these actions were predated of April 2020. Now that you've given a very nice satellite picture, which is an open source intelligence, which indicates that there is a construction which is well on their side. In fact, I think it is more important to know that we have a differing perception with the China as far as Depsang is concerned, which is comparatively much bigger area than the other area. So there's a need to be, we need to show a majority because still we have not been able to solve this difference between the two sides. Exercise of LAC confirmation is still pending. I think it's important.
So you are saying that India has not buckled. You are saying it's India has not buckled. Let's listen. And since you've raised the issue of Army Commander Northern Command, more than any one of us and the current situation, the Army Commander should know. Let's listen in to General Y.K. Joshi. At Depsang, we are told that we are unable to go up to our PPs, petrol point 10, 11, 12 and so on. They stop us. Is there a resolution to that? Is that a setback? Because when you were commanding the brigade here, if I remember correctly, 2010, we've had this issue even then.
So therefore, it's absolutely clear that the Depsang issue is predated. It is not linked to the present situation that is prevailing in Eastern Ladakh. And it's a legacy issue. We must also remember that this is the area where the differing in perceptions of the LAC of both sides, the area is maximum.
In Depsang.
In Depsang. So therefore it is complicated resolution. And like I said, predated, you mentioned 2010 when I was here, that time still it was a flashpoint. And therefore it has to be resolved in that manner. Currently, situation is not volatile there. There are no troops, amassed on other side like we were, sitting here on the North Bank and South Bank and Razangna Chinla. So it has been agreed as one of the friction points, and post the disengagement that is happening now, we will sit down and discuss and resolve that issue as well. Like I said, the area of listening perception is the maximum there. When our patrols go, they give us a face-off. They do not allow us to go up to our claim line, and we also not allowing them to go up to their claim line.
So you've heard the Army Commander. I think, is it okay for him to have the last word on this since he's the officer in charge of protecting our territory? But a very valid point raised by Adil Singh Boparai and Rahul Gandhi is about a Trojan attack on India's power grid. And I want Jitin Jain. I want Jitin Jain to respond to it. Jitin, is the government downplaying, underplaying, or turning Nelson's eye to the problem of Chinese Trojan attacks?
Look, let us reframe the question. I think a if we leave the political rhetoric apart, successful governments in our country in the last 2 decades have allowed Chinese to infiltrate our critical infrastructure sectors like telecom and power sector. Successive governments have done it. I mean, to an extent that Huawei even ended up installing critical equipments in states, controlled BSNL and MTNL. So I think successive governments have been doing it. They allowed Chinese to have a free run in our critical infrastructures. Over the past, I think, couple of years, this government has been trying to do a course correction. They recently came up with a national security directive in telecom sector where they have said that only and only equipments from trusted source companies will be allowed. And that is a clear indication to tell that no more Chinese cheap surveillance gadgetry in telecom sector, including 5G. Second, when the government decided to ban 59 and later on up to 218 Chinese apps in anticipation of, mobile surveillance, I think there was a spectrum of, politicians who were saying that this is a cosmetic measure and where is 56-inch are these people going to fight the China with this cosmetic measure? But later on, when you heard the Zenwa leaks, how China was profiling data, you realize that that was a timely step which in a way preempted a sort of different surveillance. Now, number 3, I think for the first time, our politicians are admitting that Chinese have been trying to target our critical infrastructure, and this has been happening from last 5 to 7 years. But at least today, there is a willingness to acceptance, there is a willingness to investigate, there is a willingness to put people to account and hold them accountable. So I think we should not bring politics in this
Adil Singh Boparai, the BJP hits back saying that why did the Congress in the first place permit China to come in or flourish in very critical sectors like IT or telecom or banking or railways? It's happened in all governments. It's coming to a stop, hopefully, only now.
Got 60 seconds of uninterrupted time because I think today is the time in our country, in our public discourse, to call a spade and be blunt. Point number 1, Lieutenant General Gurmeet Singh is being economical with the truth. I put a simple question to him. Have we been able to achieve status quo ante or not? The answer is no. We have agreed on buffer zones on our territory, number 2. Number 3, the kind of build-up which you see on Depsang never existed before. This is similar to what happened in Dokla. Now, any independent observer who follows satellite imagery and who's followed the issues right from 2017 would concur with me. Number 2. Number 3, international agencies like the CIA, State Department, international analysts, reputed media channels have come to a conclusion that the power outage in Mumbai was part of a Chinese strategy. Yet the Bharatiya Janata Party is in a state of denial. Number 4, if there was no intrusion in May 2020, what was the so-called disengagement process about? Because Mr. Narendra Modi told us that there is no intrusion. General Sahab, if there was no intrusion, what were our political executive discussing and negotiating about
disengagement? Since you've raised the question at a guest of mine, General Gurmeet Singh, please respond, sir. General Gurmeet Singh, please respond. General Gurmeet.
I've understood your question.
Yes, and after General Gurmeet, sure.
Yes, firstly, I think you're relating it to the 19 June statement of the Prime Minister when he said there's no intrusion. That was categorically related to the Galwan incident, June 15th and Galwan area. Secondly, disengagement is still in progress. Phase 1 has been done and the status quo in North and South Bank has been achieved as related to activities which were April 2020. After that,
I would have never interrupted a retired veteran. I have great respect, but he's being economical with truth. Status quo ante would have meant that we had access up till finger 8.
Sir, you've made that point. Sir, you've made that point. Let the general respond. The general did not interrupt you. I would request you. I'm sorry, I will not permit you to call the general a liar, sir. My most humbly submit to you, sir. Sir, you make your point, but do not cast aspersions at my guests.
But Gaurav, this is a fact. It's about national
security. I'm sorry, sir.
We had
let the general have his point.
Today
we will let our viewers decide. Sir, spokespersons of political parties will not decide. Our viewers will decide what's good for the country, sir. Let the viewers decide. Let the general make a point.
Gaurav.
Go on, sir. Okay. RP Singh, last 30 seconds to you. The general's made his point. The general stands by what he said. RP Singh, is the Narendra Modi government downplaying, underplaying or turning a blind eye to the Trojan attacks that took place in Maharashtra, Telangana, Shillong and Delhi according to reports.
Well, I'll answer all the queries which was made by Boparai. What is that status quo ante on the Ladakh region? Yes, there's no the status quo ante has shifted since 1962, not now, when 38,000 kilometers of the Aksai Chin, another 4,300 kilometers from the other area was given to China on a platter. Did I interrupt you? Boparai साहब सुनने की ताकत रखती है सर. बोपाराय साहब सुनने की ताकत रखती है. रोज एक चिड़िया के बेसिस पे झूठ मत फैलाइए. रोज के रोज झूठ मत फैलाइए. आपको दुनिया देखती है, देख सकते हैं. रोज के रोज झूठ मत फैलाइए. और सर कमिंग बैक टू यू सर, अब आप बोलिएगा ना. आपको टोकन मैंने एड्रेस इंटरप्रेट की दुनिया जानती है. सर कितनी शर्म की बात है. अरे वो टांड कहाँ गई जिसमें बाल दिखता था. वो नेहरू की टांड कहाँ गई जिसमें बाल दिखता था. याद आपको? नेहरू ने कहा था मेरी टांड है. आस्का चेन ने कहा मेरी टांड है जिसमें बाल दिखता है. और लेके तो लेके क्या हो गया? सब ढोल कितनी होते हो.
Gentlemen, it's a very serious national security issue. It's a very serious national security issue. We will revisit this story in the days and weeks ahead because it's a very, very critical national security issue. And whether it's the Congress or the BJP, every Indian needs to think, why is it that the Chinese are even there in critical sectors like telecom, like railways, like IT? Why should the Chinese be there? It's not as if the Chinese became our enemies today. They've been our enemies for a very, very long time. It's high time we open our eyes to it and face them united, whether it's the government or the opposition. A quick break. News and updates continue on India Today. That is all I have for you on India First. Many thanks for watching.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kamal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.